Hey guys, I'm Lionel, this is Connor, we're the Unreliable Narrators, and today we're going to talk about The Devils, the first book in Joe Abercrombie's newest fantasy series.
So to kick it off, I'm just going to give a general synopsis of the book and we can go from there. But the book takes place in an alternate reality Europe where the Pope is a woman and monsters and magic are everywhere. Currently, there's a schism between the Church of the East and the Church of the West, and the Pope is trying desperately to unite the churches and stop the infight. And this is where we meet our protagonist, Alex, who is a lowly kid from the streets of the Holy City, but unbeknownst to her, she is actually the long-lost princess of the city, Troy, who is destined to sit on the Serpent Throne. The Pope would love nothing more than to get her there, instill her on the throne, and unite the churches. But in order to do this, the church needs to get her from the Holy City all the way across Europe to Troy. And to do this, they enlist the help of the Devils. This is a misfit band of monsters and magicians who, although they are sworn enemies of the church, are now bound to its service. And that's kind of how we set the scene for this, entire book.
So we're going to give you our recommendation for the book at the end of the video, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to do it under 4 different categories. So we're going to do characterization, we're going to do narrative, we're going to do world building, and we're going to do pacing. And I'll kick us off with characterization. This book's got a few points of view that it jumps between. It's got, obviously, as you said, the princess Alexia. She's sort of our protagonist. We've got Brother Diaz, who is ostensibly in charge of the Devils. We've got Jacob of Thorn, who's really in charge of the Devils. We've got Baptiste, who, like Jacob, is not really a devil, but is with them. Mm-hmm. And then we've got the Devils themselves. So we've got Count Rickard, who's an ancient vampire. We've got Viga, who is a real werewolf, not an English werewolf. We've got Sunny, the invisible elf. And we've got Balthazar, the third best necromancer in Europe.
Not the first, the third. As it is beaten to death in the novel, but I like it.
So my take on the characterization, overall, Abercrombie he writes a great character. That's kind of what he's known for. Mm. This wasn't his best. I have seen people say it's because it jumps from different points of view. His other books do that too, and he still nails it. They weren't bad. I definitely had a favorite character. I'm not going to say it in the spoiler-free version, but I definitely had a favorite and a least favorite character, and I think that was largely because of the writing, not because of the character.
It's weird because each of these characters, individually, are quite likable, I think. I think the problem is that there's so much book. It's a big book, and you spend a lot of time with each character individually, and some of them remain static throughout the entire thing, and only a couple of them I feel like have meaningful character arcs where you see them really develop based on the trials and tribulations of the actual journey that they're going on across Troy. And when you spend enough time with a character, I felt like by the end of the novel I'm getting to a point where I'm like, okay, you just did the thing again. You're the same character, you've done the same bit a bunch of times, and although that character is inherently likable and honestly well written to an extent, at the end of an almost 600-page novel, it's like, okay, I get it, you've done the thing. I just want a bit more, and it's not bad, but it's nothing compared to the characterization in the first Law trilogy.
No, I agree with that. Actually, you saying 600 page, I think, is a good way to jump us. I'm going to break the order, but to pacing.
Yeah.
Because my take was, it is a 600-page book. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like one.
No, not really.
It reads like a movie.
Yes, it very much reads like a movie. The entire, I read this book in my head, picturing, when there are jokes that are made, things like that, picturing a theater laughing.
Yeah.
It's very much, it reads sort of like a Marvel script, but not quite, but it's very much movie-esque. In terms of pacing, it's very fast. Stuff happens all the time. You're kind of just in one precarious situation after another on this, kind of journey to Troy. I don't know. How did you feel about overall the pacing? Was it too fast? Did we not spend enough time in certain areas? How do you feel about it?
I know Abercrombie's been criticized in the past for things not moving quickly enough, and this kind of felt like he was throwing that in people's faces.
He's like, oh, you want a fast book?
Yeah, things are going to start happening immediately.
Yeah.
Again, Abercrombie's a great writer, and so I felt like it wasn't that it was too fast. Once again, there's the repetitive thing.
Yeah.
It felt like, oh no, another conundrum we've got to overcome.
Yeah. And I felt like I guess this, I don't know if this necessarily goes in pacing, but it felt like the spaces between the conundrums didn't add meaningfully enough to the story to make the next conundrum feel like this great big thing.
Yeah.
It kind of just felt like, oh, another conundrum.
Yeah, hurdle after hurdle after
Yeah.
hurdle.
So they, in my experience reading it, they kind of all meshed into a blur of conundrum.
Yep.
But again, it is a fast-paced book. Like if you don't want to go on this, like long, reading journey where it's like, it's not like Tolkien where you're just a bunch of creatures walking around for a long time. It's good for that.
Yep. And as you said, it does kind of read like a Marvel script.
Yeah.
Lots of bangs, lots of fight scenes,
Yeah.
lots of movement.
Yeah.
None of us really care about a lot of the side Marvel characters.
No.
Uh,
But again, in a Marvel movie, you don't spend as much time with all those characters when you're reading from that perspective. I don't know.
Yeah, so again, my overall on pacing is Abercrombie is great at this.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think this was his best,
Yeah.
it was paced well.
Yeah. It was definitely, from a strictly pacing perspective, I guess some of the things I touched on were kind of to do with, narrative and other aspects. From a pacing perspective, it's paced pretty well. I like it. I think maybe some of the end of the book should have been more of the book, but overall, it's paced very well compared to other authors. He's a master at it, and it's not really he's so good.
Yeah.
Even his as I'm sure you can tell, we have problems with this book. His book with problems is still a lot better than most other authors who
books
exist.
And actually, we were talking about Abercrombie's prose, and we were saying even if he is being, which I'm not accusing him of being, but is being lazy,
Yeah.
his prose is so good
Yeah.
that he can bring a world to life.
Yeah.
And that segues us nicely into
Phenomenal. I will just say this: the world building is, I think, it's super lazy. It's hey guys, it's Europe, but it's not. And also, there's 2 churches.
Yeah, I've got.
I
am okay with the characterization.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the pacing. I didn't love the world building.
No.
And I really wanted to, in the
Same.
same way that I really wanted to like the Van Helsing movie.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of a cool concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Europe, but all of the scary things that we associate with medieval Europe, your vampires, your werewolves, all of that's real.
They're all there.
But it was just, there were glaring holes.
Yeah.
And one of them, it's kind of cool. Troy still exists.
Yeah.
That's still there. What isn't explained is why do we, if we didn't have a Rome, why do we have not a Catholic church, but a church?
But
And then we've got the Eastern and the Western schism. Also, without a Rome, doesn't make a huge amount of sense.
Mm-hmm.
A Roman Empire, I should specify.
Yeah.
So, but then, Punic is still, it's filling the Latin void, which is again kind of cool, but it's all kind of thrown out there as a plug-in to the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. I didn't enjoy the world building. I thought it was kind of Van Helsing meets League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
And and when you compare world building in the Devils to something like Mistborn, which is very obviously everyone loves Mistborn, it's extremely popular, but I feel like I can walk around Luthadel in my brain.
Yeah.
And I cannot walk around this world, I cannot understand it the way that I can in other books.
And it's Europe.
And it's Europe, it's a world that already exists.
Well, even the first law.
Yeah.
When you think about Adua,
Yeah.
you know the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You can think about the world.
So he can do this. He can do
just
it.
didn't.
He just decided not to. But that said, it was still an entertaining world. It wasn't fleshed out as well as it has been in his other books.
Yeah. It was still cool.
Yeah, it was still definitely cool. But it felt like he didn't take the time to build this world as well as he is definitely capable of doing. Because I think the focus of this book was more so on the characters, the comedy, of which there is a lot, and just the journey, but not necessarily. I don't think he intended to build out the world and make this a super serious, hard-hitting book that you can just live in your head.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, you segued us nicely into the plot.
Yeah.
Just to take off what you said there, I agree. there was a lot of action and it was moving along as we said,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of that left out world building. You know,
Yeah.
we didn't have a lot of. In the plot, we kind of get Alex getting an education from various sources about history, and you would have thought that would give us more world building because it's
it's like the
it's kind of sloppy world building, but it's a very
way
good
to do
vehicle
it,
for it, which we didn't get. I'm shitting on the world building again, but as far as plot goes, we covered most of it, I think.
Yeah, one thing that we left out that I did just notice, Sunny, one of our devils, is an elf, and there's this in the back of everyone's minds, there's this fear that the elves are going to rise again. The elves are this existential threat to humanity as a whole. They've been in crusades in the past against the elves, and they're kind of worried that the elves are eventually going to rise again, wipe out all of Europe. So that's part of the plot that we didn't really touch on, but that's kind of feels like it's being set up more for the next book in the series, not necessarily this book. But yeah, plot in general, I did not feel that there was enough plot to drive a nearly 600-page novel. Like, a lot of it is just like getting to the next fight, getting to the next debacle.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I also, just to go back to the world building, I like your point about the elves. Again, when we look at a historical Europe, the elves are the Moors.
Yeah.
The elves are the Muslim Empire. Like that's who the Crusades were against. That's who holds the Holy Land now.
Yeah.
That's, so there's kind of that side of it. Again, it's okay conceptually, but a little bit lazy.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it doesn't explain things like, we're in Europe, there's elves, where's Russia?
Yeah. But it is also a world with werewolves and vampires, so I guess we just erase it, kind of.
But there's a Sweden.
But there is a Sweden. So, I mean, yeah.
With that in mind, somebody asks you, should I read? I saw you reading The Devils. Should I read it?
I would respond, have you read all of Joe Abercrombie's other books? And if they said no, I would say, don't.
Yeah, I like that. I think if you're into the genre, if you've read other fantasy, definitely read it.
100%,
If you enjoy
100%.
the genre, it's a great book.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get into the fantasy
Then I would
genre,
recommend it.
maybe it's the fourth one you read.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not a bad book. I complained about it a lot, I feel, but it's not bad. It's just there are so many incredible fantasy books that you could read.
A lot of them written by Joe Abercrombie.
A lot of them written by Joe Abercrombie. We're both big Joe Abercrombie fans. The First Law trilogy is incredible.
Yeah.
But it's just I don't think it's his best work. I wouldn't recommend it to somebody just getting into fantasy or trying to get back into reading, because there are just other books in the genre that are better. But if you're already very into fantasy, you like Joe Abercrombie, you want to read it.
Yeah.
Definitely read it. I'm going to read the next book for sure.
Yeah.
Even though I have complaints about this book.
And I'm probably going to complain about that.
I probably will, but I'm going to read it. And I'm definitely not mad that I read the book. It was entertaining.
I'm also going to watch the movie.
Yeah. Which is, earlier, we said that it read like a movie script. Turns out James Cameron has optioned the book. We are yet to see if it will actually be adapted, but it's looking like this was written for the purpose of being adapted to the screen. So we'll see how that goes.
Overall, recommend the book if you're into the genre.
Yeah.
Recommend the book if you're into fantasy or Abercrombie at all. Definitely, if it becomes a movie, gonna watch that. If it's your first fantasy book that you're thinking of picking up because you heard the hype, maybe look at another one first.
Just read Mistborn.